Mike, state tax increase to balance the budget.
Well, before we get to that, I'd like to respond about the city being overstaffed, which you didn't ask
Okay.
me, and that is more impacting on our citizens as far as what I would ever be able to do in office. Because with this state, all I can do is vote the way all the average citizens does. But first, let me make it perfectly clear with regard to overstaffing. All my campaign literature states that I do not favor reductions in police whatsoever. My campaign literature, which is very terse, this is problem solution, I say no police layoffs. Now, what I do propose, though, is that we adopt the Chief of Police's plan to expand the use of the Reserve Officer Corps. We used to have about 41 of those officers. We're down to 19. We need to renegotiate some of our union contracts with the police officers that don't allow us to effectively use that force, but we can go a long way towards keeping crime down in town with the presence of officers on the ground in the neighborhoods by using that force. So I fully support the police, and I don't see any room for layoffs there. I've already mentioned the firefighters, of course. You know, our problem in the city in general is that 61% of our employees live outside the city. So they take our tax dollars, run to the townships, and get twice the house for half the price. Well, that doesn't help the bottom line for the city of Bay City that provides them with their livelihood. So what's the magic number as far as the firefighters concerned? I don't know. We'd leave that to the professionals, but I would suggest that since we have approximately 51 firefighters, 37 of them live outside of Bay City, some in other counties, many of them in other counties, then maybe the 14 that live here is the magic number. And if we first, obviously, we would have volunteers in place before we downsize. There's no reason to close any fire stations. We would man with the appropriate number of volunteers, and that way expand the size of the fire department at a greater, tremendously reduced cost, and consequently provide better service. Another aspect where we're overstaffed is with regard to the bridge tenders. You know, of those gentlemen, I think we should revisit that issue. God bless them for what they do, but only one of them lives in the city of Bay City out of 8. So when we have tough choices to make, we have to think, you know, because there's really nothing in between. Are we protecting folks that do not live in our city and pay our taxes, or are we going to protect the taxpayer that does pay all the taxes and do all the voting here? I side with those folks. We would have had a company that was going to locate in town and take over those services, would have offered to hire the people that were displaced back and be a new business and a new source of revenue in town. That was a win-win situation, plus we would have a savings in operation of over $200,000 a year. We've got, that's just a second example of where tremendous savings can be had. And we do need to look at the entire organization, but police has been cut to the bare bones at this point.
I believe there is a state law or a state court decision that says that employees of a city do not have to live in the city.
Exactly.
I think that's our dilemma.
Well, it is.
Maybe that needs to be changed.
And again, that's a state law. We at the city can't change that. And so we have to deal with the problems as they're presented. And if most of our employees choose to live outside of our jurisdiction, for my mind, we can't have competing loyalties. We have to protect the people that live here and do all the paying. And if that means some of those folks that live elsewhere have to be downsized, well, then they do.
Okay, state tax increase, are you for the tax increase, or would you rather see this, the state shut down? Or not?
Well, no, well, you know, your premise suggests that there can't be any cuts, and I've never known any jurisdiction to tax itself into prosperity. I've never seen that work. I think there's probably a lot of cuts at the state level they could make, and you know, those people have been elected to make those decisions. Those are their battles. We have here our battles in Bay City, and for my part, I wish those folks well. We do need our revenue sharing, and why shouldn't we? I mean, that's money that came from Bay City in the first place, so it ought to be kept here locally and not be cut, but they can cut in other aspects, and then if they, after that, have to raise, well, I guess that's what they have to do. I don't know that I'm particularly for that, but my interest is solving the problems of the city of Bay City.